On March 7, 2025, a midnight blue Nissan Rogue was towed into my shop just after sunrise. The owner, a single mother named Diane, climbed out of the cab of the tow truck holding a folder of receipts. Her car had jerked, shuddered, and finally refused to accelerate past 15 miles per hour on the freeway the night before. She had 2 kids in the back seat. She had been driving the same car for 6 years. And the dealership had just quoted her $6,400 to replace the transmission on a vehicle barely worth $9,000. She looked at me and asked the question I have heard hundreds of times in the last 3 years. Did I do something wrong? Today, I am revealing the tragic truth about continuously variable transmissions, the 4 manufacturers quietly destroying drivers right now, and the warning signs you must recognize before the same thing happens to you. I have been turning wrenches for over 2 decades. I have rebuilt traditional automatics. I have replaced clutches in manuals. I have worked on dual clutch units, torque converter automatics, 8-speed boxes, 10-speed boxes, and every transmission philosophy the industry has thrown at us. But nothing, and I mean nothing, has produced the volume of catastrophic failures I have witnessed in the last 5 years like the continuously variable transmission. Let me be honest with you up front. Continuously variable transmissions are not evil. The technology is brilliant on paper. Instead of fixed gears, a continuously variable transmission uses 2 cone-shaped pulleys connected by a steel belt or chain that can change ratios infinitely. The engine stays in its most efficient power band at all times. Fuel economy improves. Acceleration feels smoother. There is no traditional shifting at all. In a laboratory, on paper, in a brochure, it is a beautiful concept. The problem is what happens when that concept meets the real world. Heat, stop-and-go traffic, steep hills, towing, aggressive acceleration, cold starts, long highway commutes, real drivers living real lives. Inside a continuously variable transmission, the entire load of your vehicle is transmitted through a thin steel belt or chain pressed between 2 metal cones. There are no teeth, no synchronizers, no gears in the traditional sense. Everything depends on hydraulic pressure squeezing those pulleys hard enough that the belt does not slip. The fluid inside is not just lubricant. It is the lifeblood of the system. It carries heat away. It maintains pressure. It protects the belt and pulley surfaces from microscopic scarring. And when that fluid breaks down even slightly, the system begins to die from the inside out. Here is the uncomfortable truth most drivers never hear. The majority of CVT failures are not random. They are not unlucky. They are not because someone abused their car. They are the result of design choices, fluid specifications, and manufacturer maintenance schedules that have been quietly failing drivers for over a decade. And 4 manufacturers in particular have produced the lion's share of the disasters I see every single week. The first and most notorious is Nissan. If you own a Nissan Altima, Sentra, Rogue, Versa, Murano, or Pathfinder built between roughly 2013 and 2020, you are sitting on a ticking clock. Nissan was an early and aggressive adopter of CVT technology, partnering with Jotco, a company they partially own, to build the JF0110, JF011, and JF016 family of CVT transmissions that ended up in millions of vehicles. The failure rate on these units has been so severe that Nissan has faced multiple class action lawsuits in the United States, settling some by extending the transmission warranty on certain models to 84 months or 84,000 miles. That extension was not generosity, it was damage control. The symptoms I see on Nissan CVT transmissions follow a predictable pattern. First comes a slight shudder at low speeds, almost like the car has hit a small bump in the road when accelerating gently from a stop. Drivers usually ignore it. Then comes a delayed response when pressing the accelerator. The engine revs, but the car takes a beat to catch up. Then comes the whine, a high-pitched mechanical sound that gets worse under load. By the time a check engine light or transmission warning appears, the damage is usually severe. I have pulled apart Nissan CVT transmissions where the belt looked like it had been sandblasted, the pulley surfaces scarred so deeply you could feel the grooves with a fingernail. A full replacement on most of these vehicles runs between $4,000 and $7,500. On a 10-year-old Sentra, that is a death sentence. Second manufacturer I have to call out is Jeep, along with their Chrysler and Dodge siblings. Specifically, the Jeep Compass and Jeep Patriot built from 2007 through 2017, and the Dodge Caliber from 2007 through 2012. These vehicles use the Jatco JF011E, a CVT, which stands for Continuously Variable Transmission, the same family used by Nissan. When mated to the Compass and Patriot powertrains, the failure rate was catastrophic. Jeep eventually offered traditional automatics in later years, specifically because the CVT version had destroyed the brand's reputation in that segment. I still see these vehicles roll in regularly, and the conversation is almost always the same. The owner bought it used. Nobody told them it had a CVT. They have no idea what that even means. And now the car is shuddering, slipping, and overheating on every uphill grade. Replacement costs frequently exceed the value of the entire vehicle. The Patriot and Compass also suffered from undersized transmission coolers, which meant the fluid ran hotter than designed, accelerating the failure cycle on units that were already marginal from the factory. The third manufacturer is Subaru. This one stings to talk about because Subaru built its reputation on durability, but its Linertronic continuously variable transmission, introduced in 2010 and refined over the years, has a troubled history that does not get nearly enough public attention. Subaru extended the powertrain warranty on certain 2010 through 2017 Forester, Outback, Legacy, Impreza, Crosstrek, and WRX models to 10 years or 100,000 miles after issues emerged. The most common failure I see is torque converter shudder, where the lockup clutch begins to slip and creates a vibration that feels like driving over a rumble strip at low speeds. It usually shows up between 60,000 and 90,000 miles, and it worsens steadily. Subaru also issued technical service bulletins for valve body issues and software reflashes that improved shift logic. To Subaru's credit, their continuously variable transmissions, also called CVT, are generally more durable than the Jatco units, but when they fail, replacement costs are equally painful. The second-generation Linertronic in particular has been linked to chain stretch failures, which can leave drivers stranded with no warning at all. The fourth manufacturer is Mitsubishi. I include Mitsubishi for a simple reason. They use the same Jatco continuously variable transmission family, CVT, as Nissan, mounted in vehicles like the Outlander, Outlander Sport, Lancer, and Mirage. The failure modes are nearly identical, but Mitsubishi has nothing close to the dealer support network or warranty extension policies that Nissan offers. When a Mitsubishi CVT fails, the owner is often on their own. I have seen Outlander Sport owners with 95,000 miles on the clock receive estimates that exceed their car's resale value by thousands of dollars. The Mirage is even worse because the vehicle is so inexpensive new that almost no one wants to invest the cost of a transmission replacement into one. These cars get abandoned, traded in for pennies, or scrapped entirely. Now, here is what makes this story tragic instead of just frustrating. Most of these failures could have been delayed or even prevented entirely with one piece of information that almost no dealership tells you when you buy the car. CVT fluid is not lifetime fluid. I do not care what the maintenance manual says. I do not care what the salesperson said. I do not care what the owner's manual implies. CVT fluid breaks down, oxidizes, loses viscosity, and absorbs metallic debris from normal pulley and belt wear far faster than traditional automatic transmission fluid. By 30,000 miles, the fluid is degraded. By 60,000 miles, in many vehicles, it is actively damaging the transmission it was meant to protect. The Japanese understood this earlier than most. In Japan, CVT fluid changes at 40,000-kilometer intervals are common, sometimes more frequent for taxi and fleet vehicles. In North America, drivers are told the fluid never needs to be changed, or only at 100,000 miles, by which point the damage is already done. I have seen the difference firsthand. A Nissan Rogue brought to me by a driver who religiously changed the CVT fluid every 30,000 miles using the correct Nissan NS3 specification fluid hit 220,000 miles without a single transmission issue. The same model owned by a driver who followed the dealership's recommendation of no scheduled service died at 71,000 miles. The transmissions came off the same factory line. The only variable that mattered was the fluid. Now, the warning signs you cannot afford to ignore. The first is shudder at low speeds, particularly between 25 and 45 miles per hour during gentle acceleration. This is the earliest sign of torque converter or belt slip, and the cheapest moment to intervene. The second is delayed response when accelerating from a stop, especially after the vehicle has been driven for a while and the fluid is hot. The third is a whining or humming noise that changes pitch with vehicle speed rather than engine speed. The fourth is the smell of burnt fluid, which is sweet, sharp, and impossible to mistake once you have detected it. The fifth is any flare in engine RPM during acceleration where the engine revs climb, but the vehicle does not match the rise in speed. That is slip, and slip is death for a CVT. If you experience any of these symptoms, the worst thing you can do is wait. A fluid service performed early can sometimes halt the progression of damage. A fluid service performed too late can actually accelerate failure because clean fluid no longer has the carbonized particulates that were temporarily filling microscopic grooves in worn pulley surfaces. This is why some shops refuse to change CVT fluid on high-mileage vehicles. They have seen what happens when the timing is wrong. There are also driving habits that dramatically extend CVT life. Avoid full throttle acceleration from a complete stop whenever possible. CVTs are not designed for instant torque transfer the way traditional automatics are. Allow the vehicle to warm up for a minute or two in cold weather before driving aggressively. Avoid using the vehicle for towing unless the manufacturer explicitly rates it for that purpose, and even then, stay well under the maximum capacity. Install an auxiliary transmission cooler if you live in a hot climate or regularly drive in stop and go traffic. Heat is the single greatest killer of CVT transmissions, and reducing operating temperature by even 20 degrees can dramatically extend the unit's lifespan. I want to be clear before I close. I am not telling you to never buy a vehicle with a CVT. Honda and Toyota CVTs, in particular, have proven far more reliable than the Jaco-based units used by Nissan, Jeep, and Mitsubishi. The Toyota Corolla CVT, with its physical launch gear, has been remarkably durable. Honda's CVTs in the Civic and Accord have a much better track record than their direct competitors. The technology itself is not the enemy. The combination of weak design, poor cooling, and dishonest maintenance recommendations is the enemy. If you currently own a Nissan, Jeep, Subaru, or Mitsubishi with a CVT, the most powerful thing you can do today is check your mileage, find a shop that knows CVT fluid procedures specifically for your vehicle, and get the fluid serviced if it has not been done in the last 30,000 miles. Use only the exact fluid specified by the manufacturer. A wrong fluid will destroy a healthy CVT faster than no fluid change at all. NS2 and NS3 for Nissan, CVTF J4 for Mitsubishi, Mopar CVTF NS2 for Jeep, and Subaru Linertronic High Torque CVT fluid for Subaru. These specifications are not interchangeable, no matter what a parts counter employee tells you. Diane, the woman whose Rogue was towed into my shop in March, ended up making a difficult decision. She could not afford a $6,400 repair on a car worth less than that. She sold the Rogue to a mechanic friend for parts value and used the money toward a used Toyota Corolla. She drove away in tears, but she drove away. And before she left, she asked me to tell other drivers what I had told her. So, if you have made it this far, please listen. Your transmission is not a mystery box. The symptoms it shows, you are not random. The maintenance schedule in your owner's manual is not gospel. Manufacturers have made business decisions that prioritize new car ownership cost over long-term reliability, and the drivers paying the price are not corporations. They are people like Diane, like you, like me. If this video helped you understand what your car is actually telling you, hit the like button so more drivers see this warning. Subscribe if you want weekly breakdowns that put real knowledge back in your hands. And if you have a CVT story of your own, whether your transmission failed early, lasted forever, or was saved by a timely fluid service, drop it in the comments below. Those stories save lives, save money, and save trust. Because the most tragic thing about CVT failure is not the cost of replacement. It is realizing how easy it would have been to prevent if anyone had told you the truth in time. Now you know. Pass it on.